doesn't work. That's found in the other direction. That's in coming back to just being yourself, open and natural. That's where we find true fulfillment.
But hasn't being yourself got many kind of levels?
Oh, it does.
As
yes,
well?
Of course. But it's like, like for example, let's take these image types, right? As I can speak of my own experience there, obviously, in particular. And there it's very obvious that you have this image that tries to get you love. And then, of course, the tendency will be to go like, oh, but I can't stop doing that because then I wouldn't be loved anymore. But if you look at it honestly, you see that even while you're doing that, you can't ever quite fully buy the love that you're getting because you know that it's been produced. It's like, then I'm a slave of my own image production.
Yes.
And I have to keep that running out of the fear that if I stopped, you wouldn't love me anymore. It's like, what good is that love for me, really? I can't even believe it.
Yeah. So on that level, you can never really be totally satisfied, can you?
No, it just totally doesn't work.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going, and you need to get more and better and different. And I can also say that was my experience very much.
Yeah.
That then there was always the disappointment, and that even if I got a partner who was there and reliable and really loving and really meaning me, and still there was this sense of, oh, but that still doesn't do it. I'm still not totally happy and satisfied. So, just doesn't work.
And I think
actually the other way around, it's just, and it does take that courage. It does take enormous courage, to let go of that. Because it seems like, whoa, I could lose everything. I could not be loved. And on some level that feels like death, But if there is that willingness to really find out what the truth of the situation is, there is a possibility of going through that. Or just staying here and finding out what happens if I don't continue the production machine. And in that to see, okay, actually the world does not fall apart. And actually if really nothing is done, and there is no production of any idea of me and of the world or whatever is needed, or actually everything is here. Love is right here. And I'm sure that everybody has these moments of experience of when nothing is done, when we're just here, open, relaxed, like in nature. Sometimes we can experience that, or when we let go of these defenses, of these habitual patterns. Actually, in those moments where none of that is there, we're happy, at peace, and love is right there.
I think it probably is, and it's just so sad that for so many people that doesn't happen a lot more. And I think it's true, we all get the glimpses somehow.
And I would say that really the tragedy is that it is prevented by those very structures.
Yes.
That we don't allow ourselves to just find out and experience what is truly here naturally by and of itself.
Yes, yeah. And it's interesting, a lot of the time I often introduce into interviews the subjects of what's happening on the planet as a whole, and it is really a collective thing at the moment that we all somehow, either through being aware of it or being unaware of it, we all kind of somehow are not satisfied inside. Somehow we feel holes, we feel nothing is enough, and so we take more and more and more.
Yeah, that's.
And as a human race, we grow in size and we take more and more, and somehow has to have an end.
Yeah, and right now, as you say, these are times where we very, very obviously get to see how that doesn't work. It just doesn't.
And the banks create more and more money, and we try and get us to spend more and more money to keep everything growing and growing, and somehow it's a strange situation, but it can't go on forever like that.
No, obviously can't.
And I wonder with the Enneagram whether it's something that is an evolving process in itself. And there's these 9 basic Enneagram types, and I think it's been around for about 5,000 years. Do you see at some point in the future the whole Enneagram itself moving on and evolving and somehow becoming different in terms of its structure? or do you think that the human race as such can always fit into these 9 different Enneagram types?
Well, probably. I would think that the Enneagram would somehow, as intelligently as it seems to have grown and adapted over these past 5,000 years or whatever it is that it's been around, it would possibly continue to do so.
Right.
Until maybe it's not needed anymore. It seems to be a very alive kind of map that seems to adapt, as far as I can say. And there's certainly part of it that's just like this fundamental, basic structure of life. That there are these basic movements, these basic qualities, these essential characteristics and archetypal patterns. And then obviously it has unfolded to incorporate more psychological wisdom and insight and who knows, who knows how consciousness unfolds and the evolution of consciousness and appearance unfolds, and maybe the Enneagram as a map will continue to adapt, or at some point it may be obsolete.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Because it means the human race, we've moved beyond having these constructs and veils through which we operate so much of the time.
Well, as you are also familiar, obviously, with the teachings of Hamid Ali Almas.
Yes, A.H. Almas, yes.
Yeah, I really very, very much appreciate his book on the facets of unity, on these really essential or enlightened qualities, if we want to speak this way. That the Enneagram as a map actually also very, very beautifully describes and highlights very clearly and I find this a very, very elaborate system. I really love this book. I think it gives you an exquisite taste of each of these.
It goes far out there in many ways, or far in here, whichever way you look at it.
And it really describes these essential qualities of soul, which are not fixated, which are what is veiled by the fixation. So that's what we're coming back to as the natural state, so to say. That's the way I see it, that these are the essential and natural qualities of soul that are revealed as what is natural when we allow ourselves to relax back into trusting life, rather than holding on to the defenses that these structures are that are described in the Enneagram of the different character fixations.
Yeah. So what's the kind of what's a good book for people that don't know too much about the Enneagram to get started on, do you think? Would you recommend the Helen Palmer books, or?
Well, actually, I haven't read Helen Palmer in many years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I can't say much about that. At that time, it seemed to me like that stayed very much on the level of personality.
Yes.
Which, as you said too, can be very useful, very legitimate and helpful use, to see, okay, what type am I, what type is my partner, how do we get along, whatever, which Elias, he's sometimes a little provocative and drastic, called that animal husbandry, that can be useful if two animals live together in a cage, that they get along a little better.
Yeah.
And then really, I would say it starts with, of course, Eli's book. I can recommend as a.
So what's that book called?
It's called, I think the English name is The Spiritual Enneagram. Or is it The Enneagram of Liberation?
Okay.